right, and welcome back. Thank you for waiting with us. This is the Nexus Gaming Series. I am Bahamut, one of your hosts. With me is Cat Peach. How are you doing?
I'm doing swell. How are you?
I am good. I am ready to go. Like, I was just sitting there. I was just like, let's go. Game one.
We were
Let's
just like,
do this.
let's do it. Let's do it. Come on, teams, let's go.
So, this is going to be Proyect XD versus Married with Children. Let's get into this draft, but really quickly, just want to note, the coin flip was won by Married with Children. They banned out Sky Temple. Sky was banned out by Proyect XD. Battlefield of Eternity was chosen by Married with Children, and game number 2 will be Tomb of Spider Queen. Let's get into this. Draft-wise.
What do you think of that Vala ban right off the bat?
It's interesting because it's not something that we've seen in the past quite a bit. Vala has been kind of pushed down the bar on this map for priority because of people like Hanzo and as well as Greymane for the burn onto the Immortal. So interesting start, but Diablo going to be a great first pick here. A lot of initiation with that. A lot of good dive. They can go into that Greymane later on into their draft. They've got a lot of options with the opening of that Diablo, but I'm curious to see what we get with Married with Children here.
Yeah, I feel like lately, once someone grabs the Diablo, usually the next bet is probably your Garrosh, but we'll see if Married with Children can maybe switch it up a bit, give us something a little more interesting, maybe even push the tank pick to later in the draft. Who knows? Who knows here? We've got variety. We got options that can happen, and I like when teams switch things up and don't stick to the usual 1-2 here. So we'll have to see what they go with.
I mean, what we've seen with a lot of teams typically is just, that healer tank in this 1-2 slot. I think it's a strong start, but actually they go ahead and they grab the Phoenix and the Hanzo, which I really like this. They put the high priority onto the Hanzo, which is great burn onto the Immortal. Phoenix is a very, very versatile hero. I actually really like the multiple options you can run. And I mean, a lot of things that I've been seeing, it especially works on this map for that solo lane, Leoric. But we'll get into that later here as we need the 2-3 pick on the side of Proyect XD. We'll have to see, though, what they grab. Do they round it out with just some Immortal Burn healer? Any picks that come to mind for you?
Let me think. I mean, with Stukov still available, I would love maybe seeing if maybe you pick the Stukov to try to shut down the Phoenix a little bit on those Immortal phases, or even like reaching all the way out to the Hanzo. Something I would love them to take away here. In terms of what else, I wasn't gonna say Li Ming. I'm glad they did go with the Stukov. The Li Ming, great with the poke, hoping to get those resets on the other team. Hanzo is not the most beefy character in the game, so lots of potential there.
I mean, a late game combo from Li Ming can be devastating to a Hanzo. The other thing to consider too is the avenues for I like the Li Ming Diablo. There's so much that you can add to that. Like, I think that they can also either go into a double reset with a Genji as they see how the rest of the draft shapes out. But even then, you can just pick up Greymane, and that still pairs really well with the Li Ming. This is kind of, I would say, a fairly standard composition. And at this point, I would be looking to see what kind of Immortal Burn you can take away from that composition. And it's going to be actually the solo laner.
Interesting.
Okay.
Take out that Blaze. Makes sense. Yeah, I think the Genji is a really interesting addition here to kind of, what was I going to say? Not just the double reset, but being able to really harass whatever that backline is on the side of Married with Children, to make sure that they don't always have to, or they aren't always paying attention to the Immortal, that they have to change gears and make sure they're protecting the rest of their team. So that would definitely be a very interesting pickup. I would love to see Proyect XD ban out some kind of warrior here, to be honest. Just to make sure that, we already have the Diablo taken, the Blaze is out, start really limiting those options. If they end up banning some kind of tank, I have a feeling that's definitely going to shake up things on the side with Married with Children. So hoping to see that in the next couple seconds, although they're taking a long time, so they seem quite unsure themselves. It seems they're going to end up going with the ETC ban.
The knockback, you know, Diablo can get that shadow charge in, and then you just have the knockback from ETC well timed. So it's definitely something you don't want to deal with. And also the mosh pit around these really, really brawly points, I think is a great asset for the Hanzo, because they're set up from the Dragon Arrow, or even you can get Dragon Strike here and just drop that literally on top of a mosh pit, while Phoenix is, you know, got the Planet Cracker, which from Dorms, which you saw, had a lot of good value. But they're going to go ahead and pick up the Garrosh for some displacement, and then the Malfurion for some follow-up. So at this point, I think they can kind of pick apart the members of Proyect XD, and that Diablo, when it shadow charges in, is going to be having not a fun time with Garrosh.
Yeah, so on the side with Garrosh, being able to throw out the taunt along with the Planet Cracker as well, that's just simply another option that they have to go with. So we'll have to see how Proyect XD chooses to respond to these. And to be honest, what am I thinking? You know, the gray main that you keep talking about, I think is still entirely viable. Still unsure, now that we have the Blaze gone, who that off-lane, off-tank pickup might be.
They could honestly pick up a Sonya.
They could be the Sonya. Sonya is still, she's great at doing the damage against the Immortals in this, and yeah, definitely still a viable pick here.
I honestly like that. I think the solo lane, you can get a lot of options. We'll see here, though. We're gonna get the Thrall,
and instead we get a Thrall and Medivh.
Okay. I mean, I really like it. You get Leyline Seal into the Apocalypse. You've got Thrall with some nice setup with the Earthquake. Li Ming is just dumping damage and getting resets. There are, you know, there's Phoenix who, you know, can get comboed. I wouldn't say a combo will blow them up, but get them low enough, and that's a reset on top of the Hanzo as well. Malfurion steps a little too far out of position. But at this point, solo lane probably going to be looking at that Thrall. So they really have a lot of options going into this. They could go into that Leoric. It might be a little hard into the Thrall, so maybe they want to think of something, you know, a little bit, maybe that can push into the Thrall a little bit harder. And it's going to be a Nazebo, actually. We're playing a 20 game.
Nazebo. We don't see him too often anymore, it seems. That's a interesting, I guess matchup into the Thrall, right? It's to keep him in check, make sure he's not pushing out the lanes way, you know, too far as that off lane. Malfurion going to hopefully be able to play around Medivh's portals and make it a bit more difficult for Proyect XD to easily get in and out of those, but we're gonna have to see how Married with Children manages overall. Who do you think wins the draft here, Bahamut? What's your gut?
As we're getting into this, I really, really like the brawl on the side of Proyect XD on the left, but at the same time, Married with Children, I think that their overall draft is very, very strong. The only thing that hinders them the most is the 20 aspect of Nazebo. But overall, I do think their siege potential, their fight power, the displacement, the follow-up, you know, if they can pull all those aspects off of their draft, I really think Married with Children can run away with this.
Yeah, I think, like you said, with the brawl, that Proyect XD really, if they're able to execute on these team fights, especially around the Immortals, and kind of use that damage to assist them, they could potentially have this in the bag. They have a lot of tools in that kit, but they just need to be able to capitalize on them as perfect as possible. I feel like Married with Children has a bit more flexibility in that regard. But we'll have to see how the Nazebo plays into all of that, because that'll be delightful. I love seeing heroes you don't see all the time in these games. It's great. Nazebo used to be pretty up there pick back in the day, but these days the specialists don't really.
No, because it's always that argument, like, you know, as we were talking about in the draft. I mean, going into the Thrall, I do think the Nazebo works great here, but there's a few options that you can go into. Of course, honestly, I have nothing that comes to mind. And the other thing that actually does come to mind mostly is actually kind of, it was kind of weird, but I think a Rexstar would actually be kind of interesting into that Thrall. Misha's a little difficult to deal with, but either way, it also would help us stack Crash Lightning. Either way, let's get into this. Game number 1 between Proyect XD and Married with Children on the left. We are going to be having CG Sandroy, CG Apocalypse. Excuse me, CG Samurai on the Diablo, CG Apocalypse going to be on the Li Ming, ADN going to be on the Thrall, Gudian going to be on the Stukov, and Aviato going to be on that Medivh.
And on the red side, we have Married with Children. We've got Diesel rocking the Hanzo. We got Grumpy on Garrosh. We have chat is in the way of my names. We got Betnun on the Phoenix. Who's playing that Nazebo? We got KB Mo on Nazebo and on the Malfurion, father of 3.
And we actually have the 4 members going into bottom, and as we also did talk about in draft, we have that Nazebo going into the Thrall. We'll try and take a peek up there every so often. But just some poke damage coming out at the start of this, and also just some notable level 1s here. We actually do have the Thrall going into that Echoed Element, so definitely going to be having the ability to stack that up in that solo lane. And actually just peeking in the top, KB Moog taking a little bit of damage from ADN there and actually getting pushed back to the gate.
Yeah, he's going to have to retreat for now. Not a great start for KB Mo, but it is the first level, so nothing too much to be worried about just yet, so long as you're not dying right off the bats. Medivh going to start flying around, seeing when he can possibly lay one of those portals, give his team the early upper hand. Grumpy's going to fall back just a little bit. We're going to see the members of Married with Children still holding their own, although they are getting a little bit low, but nothing too much to worry about.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, with the Immortal popping up here in the next, 2 minutes, 45 seconds or so, we're going to see teams mostly just stacking up their level 1 questing talents. We actually have a different level 1 for Hanzo, not going into that simple geometry we often see on a map like this for the extra arrows. We actually, I was going to say Root coming out, but Sandroy will be the first one to actually fall in this bottom lane, going over to Married with Children, getting that first kill. But Hanzo actually going to be getting the target practice at level 1 there. And they actually get this toss onto Gudjon, and that might be a dead Stukov, and that is going to be it, Cat Peach.
That is a beautiful flip in Root combination from the side of Married with Children. If they can continue to pull that off, I have a feeling that Proyect XD is definitely going to have a hard time, especially in these team fights, if they're able to get that flip, get a quick pick, and then have the members of Proyect XD just back up immediately when they're down to members. We're going to see Married with Children grabbing this bottom siege camp, going to help with this push going on the bottom. Both sides still pretty much in a stalemate, so I like Married with Children going ahead and grabbing some of those camps to help maybe tilt the scales one way or another in their favor.
Yeah, and I mean, at this point, they got that nice pick in top lane against Thrall when they actually simultaneously got one in bottom on the Stukov that we were watching up there. Because I peeked into top, I was just like, wait, where's the oh my god, ADN got killed there. So they actually got those 2 kills and pushed them a little bit further into that 4 talent tier, and also starting to get that level advantage. We are going to see Project XD grabbing the siege camp, which will be pushing into that bottom lane, but there will be a response from the members of Married with Children, as the lanes are going to be, pushed up just about halfway. They're going to crash as the Immortals come in, and they go ahead and set up for burn.
Both teams preparing to hopefully have other lanes pushed out as everyone is distracted by these Immortals. This will be a very telling tale, I think, for how the rest of this game is going to go, this very first Immortal phase, to see how these teams are going to position around each other, especially with the roots and displacements on the side of Married with Children. Just like that, ADN does get the flip. He's getting low, but he's going to be able to back off just a bit. Goes through the portal, but still looking low as Nazebo starts to poke him from the backside. Barely gets out, but Stukov ends up going down in the process. Yeah,
and at this point, Sandroy is going to be on their own without that Stukov, so it will be Diablo falling as well. They lose a little bit of burn onto their own Immortal, but they'll rotate out here, and they'll just go ahead and start to work on the opposing side. Top lane going to be cleared out by the 3 remaining members, as we do have Stukov coming back. Diablo will be up in just a second. Also, really quickly to note that only sitting at 28 souls, so not going to be looking at any sort of revive coming up anytime soon in this next fight, and it looks like they want to come in and try and take this during this next transition phase.
Yeah, in the last fight, Nazebo ended up using that zombie wall really well. ADN in the roots, but that portal from Medivh, able to get him out just inside, was great. We're going to see KB Mo back up a bit. I was saying the use of the zombie wall more as a zoning tool than a capture tool in that last fight, I think was a really excellent decision on the side of Married with Children. And just a different way to use that wall. I know a lot of players think that if you don't catch zone in there, there's a little bit of value lost, but in such a map that there are lots of tiny choke points, that is totally a valid and really worthwhile tactic. So very cool to see that. If you also get people in the zombie wall, much like Diablo there, also a good way to play.
And that actually will zone these members out, losing their tank like that. Married with Children will kind of step up. They're going to take a bit of damage, also going to get poked out quite a bit here, but they will be able to zone these members away as a Hanzo, with that 4 talent, the Sharpened Arrow, going to go ahead and burn down the Immortal, and that will be a fairly well shielded Immortal going over in favor for the members of Married with Children here. Going to be going into that top lane, so look to see Nazeebo split off, get the soak in bottom. And actually going to have a response from Medivh from that. That's interesting.
Yeah, that is very interesting. I wonder if he is more curious of just keeping an eye and seeing how far he gets. It does look like he will at least give KB Mo a run for his money while he's down there. But I do like the split off from Nazeebo. Married with Children already has that level advantage going on, so if they can capitalize that even more to really secure their advantage in this game, then all the better for them, especially if they can get level 10, even beyond, before the next Immortal phase.
Oh, and this is actually going to be Grumpy getting pulled away from the team. And the reason I thought it was interesting that they didn't have their Medivh is because that's the one thing that saves them from that Garrosh combo. You know, that Thrall, ADN making it out, that was the portal that got them out. So that's why I was expecting Thrall to be in the bottom once again. But at this point, we do just have... They're going to get the gate and the fort, and this Immortal still has about a third of its health, so they're going to get a little bit more of this keep front gate, but, you know, nothing more than that, but that's still a significant push with only the first Immortal of the game.
Yeah, and to add to that, taking Echo of the Elements as well adds to the confusion of why Thrall wasn't the one to go into that bottom lane. You know, being able to take advantage of getting those minion deaths would have been a really fantastic thing for his quest. It's not too far behind, but just a curious thing to note. Married with Children, grabbing this siege camp on top. Grumpy getting a little low. He's going to back up, pulls out the Unstoppable. Proyect XD unable to take him down, and he ends up backing away. And both teams going to go back, get some more health, and then reset and try to see what they can get next time.
Yeah, and at this point, I gotta say, like, the way that they're rotating away and getting out of these fights, it's really, really good for Proyect XD, but they've got to just close that experience gap, because this will be 10s achieved on the side of Married with Children, and at this point, it's going to be a little difficult to really defend some of these lanes, as well as, you know... Oh, because this is exactly what I'm talking about. They can do whatever they want on the side of Married with Children, because, well... They actually just friendly tossed Kamo out of there. There will be the Purification Salvo coming out onto quite a few members. The Diablo is all by themselves. No souls either, so that will be Diablo falling. Full death timer. They go ahead and just take this camp. And this is the aggressive play that I love to see teams utilize, having the 10 advantage like they do. They can rotate around. They can do whatever they want. And that's what I was saying. It's next to near impossible for Proyect XD to really defend too much, because they're going to exploit their advantage in this game.
Yeah, Proyect XD, it looked like they were looking for the gank on KBMO for a little bit, but then ended up going for the engage once they realized that Married with Children was taking that bruiser camp. And that was a really interesting call, given the level 10 advantage on the side of Married with Children. Definitely extremely risky. And we saw, you know, Diablo end up getting singled out and taken down in that fight, which sets them back just a bit more in experience. And so... Proyect XD needs to be a little bit more careful in making those decisions, not just trying to get those picks with being a little bit too aggressive on their side when they're down like that.
And here's the thing, they want to start with the aggression. They're going to go ahead and get a huge arrow into this team. Portal going to be getting a lot of them out, but the taunt is going to be keeping Diablo back, and that will be another kill, as Diesel was chucked forward by Grumpy there. And they go ahead and they just say, all right, we got the kill that we wanted. We pushed you guys further back. We continue to get our experience advantage. And we'll just go ahead and finish out this Immortal and have the full shield up against you coming down that bottom lane.
Yeah, Married with Children saw Thrall showing on top. At first, he went and got the siege camp up there and then started taking down the minions. So they knew they had the person advantage in that fight. And when you have an experience lead like that and a talent lead like that, why wouldn't you go in and say, well, you want to fight? You seem to be the one a little bit at a disadvantage here, so why the heck not? We'll take what we can get and make you pay for trying to be a little bit aggressive on that side. So really good response from Married with Children. And now we have their Immortal pushing in the bottom lane. We're going to have to see what Proyect XD can do to protect their bottom forts.
I mean, at this point, they were literally running up into top lane, pushing them out, keeping the Thrall out of lane, who was trying to just soak for 10, as it looks like they need all 5 members for this response. Meanwhile, though, in top lane, Nazeebo is continuing to work on those stacks, push up the lane, keep the experience advantage in favor for the members of Married with Children. And the one thing I want to note here, Capeach, is that they still don't have 10s on the side of Proyect XD, and they're continuing to push this bottom lane with a semi-shielded Immortal.
Yeah, this is a really difficult and tricky situation for Proyect XD. There's no real clear-cut way of how they end up making up 3 levels of an advantage. They do finally have level 10s. Grumpy on the wrong side of the gate. Phoenix coming out with the oh my gosh, I'm blinking on that.
Purification Salvo.
Thank you. Immortal now going after the keep. And that is likely going to fall in the next little bit, as it is still a half health at this point. And this is starting to look more grim on the side of Proyect XD.
Yeah, at this point, these guys they're starting to push down this bottom lane, and they're looking for a chorus. Dukov will get the shove onto Grumpy, but it's only going to get caught onto the keep. Diablo's a little bit low here, going to get tossed and smushed in that. The Immortal has fallen, but they lost their Diablo. No souls to bring them back, full death timer, and that is, they're going to be poking at this core, but it doesn't look like they're going to be able to get more than about, actually 25%, as I apologize for that little bit of hang there, as we actually get the Phoenix out just in time. The Earthquake that was slowing them down so much, there is going to be the Polybomb that will confirm the Garrosh kill, giving a reset over to Li Ming. Hanzo are going to be leaping over this wall. They're trying to get out of there with the poke, but at this time, looks like they only get the 1 kill, as Nazeebo slows them down, and those toads doing quite a bit of damage.
That was a fantastic defense on the side of Proyect XD. They saw that Phoenix and Grumpy actually were both less than half health, and decided, well, why don't we try to take advantage of this? Beautiful Earthquake by Thrall, able to keep them hanging around a bit longer than they really intended to, and were able to secure a kill. So excellent play by them, as they now go and get this Bruiser camp on their side. The rest of the members of Married with Children finally all back together, getting camp their own at the bottom.
At this point, I mean, with the level deficit between the two teams, still the members of Proyect XD, they can't really do too much on this map. Even though they had a semi-advantage with the, that 1 kill that they had, they basically pushed up the lanes. They got a camp. They did as best as they can, but they're trying to set up on KB Mo. But Grumpy is kind of making sure that they don't lose their Nazeebo. Medivh going to be scouting this out, while the rest of the members of Married with Children will be grabbing this camp to push up into the top lane, pressure that keep, while the Immortal will be spawning in the next 8 seconds here. So just trying to get them, to have to respond to some of these this lane pressure, and also maybe trying to bait them into a little bit of a fight here in this top lane.
Yeah, on the side of Proyect XD, it's hard to say, it's hard to predict what their next couple steps are, right? You're still down a really important talent here. You know that Married with Children has the tools and abilities to chunk down the Immortals extraordinarily quickly. And so do you give up that first half and wait till the halftime show to soak and try to gain experience, which it looks like they're going to do with clearing out this top camp, or attempt to take out as much of Married with Children's Immortal as possible? I like that they're soaking. I like that they're trying to give themselves a window to fight now that Married with Children still doesn't have level 16, and this is the opportunity that they need to go in and try to get 1 pick, get 2 picks, and try to turn this around.
This is the time when you need to take the fight, and let's see what they do here in this situation, as it looks like they're posturing around this bottom Immortal, and they do not want to give it over too easily. Diablo going to be going ahead and getting a dive in on this, as the Hanzo arrow will be coming out as well. The Apocalypse going to be hitting so many members. Silence on top of them, as well, as it looks like KB Mo will be the first one to fall. Taunt is going to be going out. Undominable going to be used by Grumpy there, as it looks like they get the Purification Salvo onto so many of the members. A lot of the members of Married with Children are falling so low here. They do back over the wall, as Hanzo does get that leap, and ADN getting some poke damage, but has the portal for protection. They make a great defensive play here, and this is exactly what they needed, as you noted. I mean, that's great. They can reset this. They can move on to the Immortal, start to get this burn, and the halftime show's already happened, so they can just get the straight burn on this. They don't have to wait for any sort of delay, and maybe prioritize this time that Nazeebo is not in play for the members of Married with Children.
That was such an intense fight earlier, and I was worried that Proyect XD was going to go in too deep. Right now, Sansroy getting chunked down, got a little bit silenced by that for a little bit there, but ended up backing out just fine. Both teams in that last fight just got so incredibly low. as they are now, and this is almost a little bit of a repeat, does Proyect XD want to attempt to even continue to go in? Sans Roy says yes, goes in for the charge, gets the protect from Medivh, but that is not enough to keep him alive. Diablo's the first to go down in this fight, followed by Medivh.
Oh, the Dragon Arrow just barely missing the side of Li Ming there. That could have been her demise, but with those 2 kills, as well as the pressure onto the core from these catapults that have already taken away the shielding, this will be an Immortal going over in favor for the members of Married with Children, and that will be going down that top lane that Nazeebo has already been setting up, trying to get some more pressure here. This could be game-ending. 14 to 16, we'll have to see here. They might be able to get some kind of counterplay, some kind of counter kill, but this is a very highly shielded Immortal, and they're going to have to make a really strong defense.
Yeah, it's extraordinarily high shield, not 100%, but I don't see a scenario in which Married with Children doesn't take down this keep and even take down the existing shield on Proyect XD's core. But we've seen Proyect XD defend against a situation like this before, where they were a talent down and still able to make something happen. They ended up getting heroics in that last fight, and I'm not sure they would get their level 16 in this scenario, but it's definitely going to be a bit of a miracle if they are able to defend this, but definitely not impossible. The Immortals now through the keep, and this is it. Proyect XD needs to make something happen now, get another kill, and secure a little bit of comfort in being able to deal with this Immortal.
This is a lot of damage going out. They get the separation with the Polybomb from the Medivh. Purification Salvo going to be connecting onto so many of the members, and it will not get Li Ming. The shield is down onto the core. The Immortal is starting to chunk onto this. They pressured them back into their Nexus, and it looks like this will be game number 1 going over to Married with Children. GG, well played.
Yeah, like we kind of talked about during the draft, we saw that Proyect XD, one of my favorite maps, personally.
It's a great casting map. Like it is like the early game is, it's rotations. You learn a lot about a team and their rotations and communications from the early game, and then you see that develop and unfold. And I think that's a huge and wonderful aspect of this map.
Mm-hmm. I would like to see, if I'm gonna do predictions on first round bans, if Stukov isn't in one of those, the first team to pick him up stole him. He's got a great area of being able to clear out those minion waves and be able to help stack up on those gems, able to prevent people, opposite team members, from turning in their own gems. And those are just really strong tools that I personally wouldn't want to play against. You have other characters like, we saw Li Ming last game. Wouldn't be surprised if she ended up coming back in this draft as well, given that ability to poke and prevent turn-ins. But we're going to have to see what the teams decide. That is simply my opinion over here at the captain desk.
No, and that's a great thing to note. I mean, poke damage is a really, really good asset on this map. I mean, we see a lot of Junkrat. We see a lot of Jaina for that as well. Gul'dan has a huge place on this map for the wave clear that he offers, as well as the poke damage, and then the late game stacking of the Echoed Corruption. You can body some teams with it, and the wave clear is just phenomenal. But looks like Married with Children, they're going to open this draft up with a Diablo of their own and say, all right, you got to play it, it's our turn.
We will show you how that Diablo is done. Diablo on the side of Proyect XD did have, in my opinion, a couple of very eager engagements in that last game. So definitely interested to see on how Married with Children ends up playing the hero. We're going to see Gul'dan and a Blaze picked up on the 1-2 from Proyect XD. Blaze, excellent, clearing those waves, getting those gems. Gul'dan in a sense too, pretty decent wave clear. We don't see him again as much anymore, but he's pretty solid on a map like Tomb of the Spider Queen.
And it's they're establishing themselves. They're grabbing the things that they want. They want the Blaze, which I actually really like here, because technically picking up the Blaze, it doesn't show what your draft is. You can technically run a main tank as a Blaze. And so I do like, we in the past before Blaze came out, we did have like Arthas a bunch, and Arthas was kind of run the same way. Gul'dan great for the wave clear, but I already see you over there. Lucio and Nazeebo, they've got a lot of setup here and a lot of good rotational speed as well.
Yes, the speed boost from Lucio I think is amongst supports entirely undervalued, especially with a map with two objectives that are fairly, close together. They're not on total opposite ends of the map. To be able to quickly keep an eye on both of them Seeing the Nazebo come back in really excites me. Married with Children, also thinking they had a really, had a strong showing with the hero. Why not bring it back? Potentially for the same reasons that you talked about before. This map has very similar close quarters encounters, much like Battlefield of Eternity. So we'll probably see a few more of those really excellent zombie walls as a zoning tool plays.
The other thing too is there's a lot of pickup on stacks for Nazebo, so you can stack up very, very quickly. You don't technically have to run Nazebo in the solo lane here, and I personally would maybe not suggest it. You still draft into that solo lane. It's a possibility because Toads into a lot of teams where you are making these rotations have great poke damage. You can stack your Toads as well on those. You get dismount with it. It's an option. We'll have to see what they end up choosing here, but we had the Hanzo being banned out as well as the Stukov, trying just to choke out that support as well as the extra damage on either side. Or choke out the damage on the side of Married with Children and Proyect XD. Not going to be able to get that healer that maybe was pretty, I actually won't say maybe, was pretty strong for them last game. A lot of good silences coming out. But what do you start to go into at this point?
I mean, I'm starting to wonder if Blaze is, we do see scenarios in which Blaze does act as the main tank, and so is Proyect XD going to attempt to do that? We don't see it as much anymore, but always an option to see if maybe they end up picking a different offlane tank. We're gonna see the Deckard Kane coming in. Okay. I was thinking we would definitely see Malfurion, but being able to lay those potions all around the battlefield and make sure that people have healing wherever they need it is definitely valuable when you have a map that's so focused on rotations like this one.
The other thing, too, to note is that Genji is great for those rotations. The dive into the backline can be huge for them. The other thing, too, is you said the potions already, but you can just set up your lanes, and that's great for the 4-man rotation. And then also Lornado, because at least with the draft that they currently have, I don't really expect a stay a while and listen because I don't think they would get the value that there's no kind of like shutdown on top. But like if they had maybe grabbed, actually, I was gonna say maybe if they grab an ETC, they could combo that into it. That's a maybe though. We'll have to see how they round that draft out. Last 2 picks though for the members of Married with Children, they're going to need maybe their solo laner, but they're definitely going to be needing some damage as well. I actually kind of like the idea of a Thrall for them.
Yeah, I mean Thrall's always been solid on this map.
Okay.
And Malthael.
They have got 2 solo laners. And I like this because they can run this. They can run this either way. So because like the Kael'thas gets wave clear. You get Nazebo poison onto all your minions. Kael'thas cleared. Boom, done. You're quick. Or you want that Nazebo in the solo lane, then you have Malthael, and then your wave clear is still Kael'thas. Like it works either way, and you've got. I really like Married with Children's draft. What do you respond?
It's a cheeky draft, but I also do like it. And like you kind of were saying, there's a certain combo that I'm really hoping we see here with Nazebo and Kael'thas, where Nazebo, instead of maybe focusing the zombie walls on zoning, actually is focusing on trapping, which gives Kael'thas really easy targets to literally light on fire. And so that would be a joy to see. A new Barak coming out on the side of Proyect XD. Give us your thoughts, Bahamut.
I mean,
about the bug.
So definitely the Blaze will be in the solo lane at that point.
Yes.
The Anub'arak, I think, anchors very well in between the rotations between mid and top. And with the Deckard, I think he can basically body the damage that would be coming in. The Nubarian armor would be great against the Kael'thas as well as the Nazebo. And then you have Genji, who, you can just kind of utilize it as like a rock to hide behind. Like I actually think it's a phenomenal pickup for their team. The stun will be really, really good because they have then follow up with Blaze stun. Genji's diving in. You've got damage being dropped out from Gul'dan. I think it's great. And then you have a stun also from Deckard. I think there's a lot of good setup from Proyect XD if they can get onto some of these members. At the same time, the damage output from Married with Children, that's the thing that staggers me. That's the thing I'm afraid of.
That is going to be extremely terrifying for Proyect XD to deal with, I think. I'm thinking a bit more about stay a while and listen a little bit, and seeing if there's any situation in which that actually works, but I'm still in the camp of probably not. I'm more curious about who's the cocoon target on the side of Married with Children.
I mean, if you I think it could either be Diablo if you want to shut down the tank, because it is that solo tank, but at the same time you can also web rep the Lucio. Kael'thas doesn't have a self heal. Malthael does. I mean, at this point, it's one of the situations you can potentially nullify Break It Down, and then once that doesn't pop off, Genji can just get Dragon Blade at X Strike, which we've seen. Gul'dan can then get a Horrify, and there's no buffer with the Break It Down, because that's typically you see, once Horrify goes out, Lucio's usually there with the Break It Down because they shouldn't be clustered in with the rest of the team. But either way, I don't know. Like, it's the Cocoon target could be anyone. You just shut down one member, or even then you just isolate them. You can you catch someone in a chase, the rest of the team can't stay with the one member who's cocooned and unwrap them. So it's unfortunately you have to sacrifice a kill, and you maybe get that pick and play off of it.
Yeah, for sure. We're gonna have to see how it goes. I generally can see so many scenarios and have no set thought on it either way. So that's gonna be interesting to see how it goes.
All right, let's get into this. I'm reading the chat too. Okay, we're good. On the left-hand side, we are going to be having Proyect XD with ADN going to be on the Blaze, Avito going to be on the Genji, CG Apocalypse going to be on the Gul'dan, Sia Sanroy going to be on the Anub'arak, and Guden going to be on that Deckard Cain.
And on the side of Married with Children, KB Mo reprises his role as Nazebo, Betnun going to be the Malthael, Father of Three playing Lucio, Grumpy on Diablo, and Diesel playing Kael'thas.
All right, let's get into this as we have all 5 members on both sides meeting in this mid for a little, how you do, and that is a Convection Kael'thas. I just want to note that right off the bat.
Oh, golly gee, Convection.
The supposed trap talent. We'll see.
I don't think it's that much of a trap talent. May Twitch chat possibly forgive me for that statement. But I think it has potential, and I just think it gets too much flack. I want to see more Convection. That is my challenge to those watching. Play Convection more and see how it goes.
And actually, in this bottom lane, we actually have ADN getting damaged quite a bit by Betnum, and that is going to be a Blaze making it out with just under 100 health, going to get some of that self-healing. But meanwhile, in this top lane, we have Sanroy taking a bit of damage, going to be able to get that burrow out and play it safe. But in these rotations, Kael'thas is going to be looking for stacks, and so is Nazebo, as well as the Gul'dan going to be on those corruption stacks. Going to need 40 there, as Grumpy going to take a bunch of damage. Scroll of Identify going to be coming out, locking down 2 members here. Not enough follow-up damage, and actually CG Apocalypse needing to back off as they are quite low.
Yep, they're gonna split off. I am interested. So Married with Children, as I look at these two teams, definitely the advantage in wave clear. And for such a map that is so dependent on the wave clear, I wonder if there are other tools that Proyect XD will be able to capitalize on that maybe make that not so much a advantage that Married with Children can actually use. They're gonna have to, I think, secure kills extraordinarily quickly, get maybe 1, maybe 2 before even level 4, level 5, to start tipping, the level advantage in their favor. Otherwise, I see a scenario where simply on wave clear alone, Married with Children ends up just dominating in this map.
And that's the thing, is you can already see that their rotations coming out between these two lanes are really, really strong. The other thing to note, while Malthael got this camp, I don't think they lost a wave in bottom lane, and actually ended up getting this camp to push in, as well as pushing in AD quite a bit. At this point, I would say Betnum is holding this bottom lane fairly well, and it looks like they're trying to, both teams are getting fairly close on that turn-in. Looks like we're only going to be needing about 13 more on the side of Married with Children, as they are just making these rotations and getting the pickup on the gems they need.
Yeah, the choice to keep Blaze in the bottom lane against the Malthael for so long was interesting, given that Malthael does have, is stronger against heroes with a higher health pool. And so I suppose it's smart keeping him down here because he's able to heal himself back up and maybe deal with that matchup displacement a little bit. But he's never going to get the advantage, but maybe that's not what they need. They just need someone to stoke the experience, make sure that at least the structures end up staying alive. And we're getting very close to turn-in phase now. Married with Children hitting their 50 needed. Proyect XC only 10 behind, but we'll see who can get the first one here onto the Spider Queen.
And the one thing I want to note really quickly is actually in this situation right here, Betnam actually might be in a really bad spot as Genji's just getting a couple of those body blocks, but getting that self-heal and actually going to be going in and trying to get the kill onto ADN, and that might be it. The poison will not be enough, and actually he's holding off 2 members here. I wanted to note really quickly, though, this is... If this continues and it stays the same down in bottom lane, we could be looking at a real bad situation for the members of Proyect XD, because once Married with Children hit 10 and they get last rites, that Blaze better be able to hit the R button quick enough if they have 10, and have the bunker to mitigate the last rites. Otherwise, that's going to be that talent stacked up so quickly as we're going to have to dive in onto Genji, and actually that will be the first kill of the game going over to Married with Children.
Gems lost on the side of Proyect XD, and hopefully Married with Children able to take advantage of the fact that Genji is down to secure their first turn-in, but it looks like they're going to continue to clear the waves and finally actually end up getting that first turn-in, first Web Weaver phase of the game going to Married with Children, and already with a 1-level lead, I expect that they want to get a lot more out of this next phase.
Absolutely. The other thing that they've pressured them so much in these lanes, and it actually looks like Malthael will be going ahead and just soaking the mid, leaving bottom open a little bit, but they're going to go ahead and pressure this top lane. The one thing I want to know is that they have this 7 advantage, and that's huge for them. You can see that the members of Proyect XD are playing a little kind of back here, as we have a lot of damage going to be coming out from Kael'thas at this time, making sure they're just, they're getting zoned back. This Web Weaver does a lot of damage to the top lane. They want to open this up because this is the boss lane. This is your kind of win condition a lot of teams consider, because you can stack boss with Web Weaver. Even then, a late game boss could just end it.
Yeah, and it's really difficult for Proyect XD to get in too close to the Web Weaver too, given that Kael'thas is able to punish that that closeness in combat with a lot of the tools in his toolkit, and so they're able to keep this top Web Weaver alive for quite a long time, able to even get down this first fort up in the top lane. Genji able to deal with the mid, and Malthael was soaking on bottom. He's going to back up, knowing that the Weavers are pretty much gone, not wanting to stay longer than needed and get picked off by the members of Proyect XD.
We actually have a dive in from Genji at this time. The zombie wall going to be dropped. We actually have Sandroy utilizing their burrow in actually at this time. So no... Oh, we're going to have a DC. We'll see if they are going to pause, but we'll continue the fight here at this time, as it looks like we do have the Scroll of Identify going to be coming out. Rejoin from the member here, as it looks like we have Sandroy going to be trying to get onto Diesel. Not enough mana to do too much, as it looks like they're not going to be losing anyone here. Nope, Grumpy will be killed. I spoke way too soon, but that will be souls for Diablo falling at this time.
It's always difficult when you're the solo warrior in any composition. For your team can't really engage too much if you back and leave. Do you take the chance of possibly getting enough heals to continue to fight, or do you apologies, just paying attention to the fact that Malthael finally took out that Blaze that he's been trying so hard to do all game. But do you try to stick around and wait for Lucio to get those heals on you to be able to continue to engage? And that was a decision that on the side of Married with Children, they decided they wanted to do, and Grumpy ended up going down for it.
Yeah, and the one thing I was actually going to note really quickly is you had mentioned, Kael'thas' kit with punishing people trying to step up in this Web River situation. They took the Netherwind at level 4, which I was hovering, which extends the range by, I think, 30%. So you have that even further range of being able to just punish someone who tries to even step up in lane to anyone during these Web Reaper phases, which actually looks like they only need 2 more gems turned in on the side of Married with Children, as we continue to have the pressure from Malthael in bottom lane. He has the ones necessary, and it looks like they might want to try and punish this, as actually will be turned in for the members of Married with Children, but Betnam, I think, is going to be in a bad spot, and this will be the Malthael falling. Maybe I spoke too soon.
The jukes coming out from Betnun.
Oh
no, so close. I thought possibly, but I mean, Anubarak showcasing what he can be good for, being able to get those long distance stuns. You think they're able to escape, but he makes sure you stick around, and Malthael ends up falling in that case. But Proyect XD, not end of the woods yet. They have to defend against this Web Weaver phase. They're going to go in and maybe see if they can do anything about Diesel, who's now backing away. Genji, able to take him down, now setting his eyes on Grumpy.
And actually, they are able to get it here with the speed boost from Lucio. That was web wrapped. And the one thing I like what they did, they made sure Kael'thas did not get those stacks and reset to 1 now. They did put the self flame strike down to go ahead and try and get that 1 stack where they come back. You know, I only have 19. But here's the thing. Meanwhile, all this is happening. No, hold on. Avito in a bad spot here. Might actually. Oh, the shadow charge is going to be enough.
Grumpy going in, trying to get him down, but Aviato says, "No way! Don't you know I'm a ninja? I'm able to get out of this situation just fine."
That I was expecting them to be able to grab that, but I guess not. That Horrify was perfect, as it looks like. The one thing I was going to know is that they had Webweaver phase during that entire time, so that was pressuring top lane, opened up the map a little bit more for the members of Married with Children. No turn-in available for them as Kael'thas is back at this time, but now they're going to need to be watching the turn-ins themselves because they do not want to allow them to try and get any of the 79 gems that they are currently holding on to.
Yeah, that's a lot of pressure for Proyect to have that many gems and knowing how badly you need a turn-in. They have not been able to get down a single structure so far in the game, and they have lost all 3 of their forts, which makes the situation even tougher for them now that Married with Children has gotten the 13 talent. And Married with Children looking to maybe capitalize that, maybe push in this mid lane, see if they can get a pick out of the situation. Sansroy gonna dive on in. Genji coming in. KB Mo using the stasis, able to survive, but we see it stay a while and he immediately gets interrupted.
We have the Genji trying to get onto the backline as Father is trying to just speed boost away. The team is getting peeled away from each other. The knockback will be there as it looks like Genji is going to be taking quite a bit of damage. It looks like that will be the Pyroblast used. The protection status is over. You cannot outrun it. It is coming for you. And that is going to be the Genji killed. Gul'dan will be there for the pickup onto the gems, but actually the overpower, and that might be ADN falling here. The Jet Propulsion will be getting them out, but unfortunately not far enough. They pick up more of the gems. They only lost like 8 gems, or no, I think they lost maybe 10 gems during that entire encounter. But here's the thing. They lost 3 members. That opens up the avenue for boss here for the members of Married with Children. You can already see them rotating for it. They want to get that pressure already in top lane.
So now if you're Proyect XD and you possibly configure that Married with Children is getting this boss, do you attempt to get a turn in now while you have the possibility, knowing that that top lane push is essentially going to be non-existent now that you're going to have to deal with the boss pushing into your Webweaver and potentially even not capitalizing on your own push phase as well? It does look like they're going to do the turn in and perhaps maybe they'll have enough time to go and do something about this boss.
Unfortunately not. They have the tools for it, but not the level, as it looks like we have the Ice Block coming out from Nazebo, who will be finishing the Toad talent at this time too. We have the stun going to be going out onto ADN, not going to be connecting. Web Wrap actually going to be connecting onto the Lucio, so that cooldown is currently burned. Now this is a boss pressuring top lane. It doesn't look like they're going to be going for any sort of pressure here, as I think Maltheo will be rotating into mid to get the clear onto that. The rest of the team will be following suit. Doesn't look like they're going to be getting any, advantage with that boss, but this is great for the members of Proyect XD. It pauses the game. It allows them to breathe. It pushes them into that 13 talent tier, and they can fight on an even talent tier and maybe try and get a leg up themselves.
They still will have a lot of gems going into the next round as well. So it's not like they spent all their gems and now have to build up entirely to the next level. So that's definitely in their favor. And you're absolutely right about being able to breathe. Just being able to have that mental clarity for a few minutes, give you time again to make that window. Oh, what's Married with Children planning here? Grumpy going in, getting the flip on Apocalypse. Genji going off on the back line, trying to see if he can get some resets. But he ends up going down in the process, maybe timing a bit too in. Gul'dan also falling, losing 39 gems for Proyect XD.
That is going to be Blaze trying to run at this time as KB Mo looking to hunt them down. ADN just going to be starting to just back off here, but that might be the end of Blaze. It does allow them to have their Deckard and their Nubrak get out of this, but Pyroblast is going to be used. There is no bunker. There's no safety. That is another kill from the Pyroblast, as it looks like Maltheo has grabbed this camp. They'll have that pressure in the mid. They are only 10 gems away for a turn in here, so they can rotate about 3 in like a third lane and go ahead and have enough for a turn in here.
Married with Children up 3 levels. We're seeing a little bit of a repeat of the last game. They take a hold of a lead and they say we're not going to let go. They were able to secure the Bruiser camp on the side of Proyect XD. Give a little push into that mid keep. And at this point, the map is kind of in the oyster of Married with Children. Malthael is going to go get the Bruiser camp on his team's side of the map, and the rest of the team is going to turn in the gems that they do have. And if I could do math faster, I could see they are one gem away from a turn-in.
Diablo should be able to get this in the bottom lane. They don't want to show too much here. The one thing I also want to note really quickly is that Nazeebo is sitting at 153 stacks, currently very much so on pace for the 175 necessary at level 20 for that huge damage buff. And at this point, they actually get a turn-in on the side of Proyect XD, and this is a nice, I said it last time and I'll say it again, it's a nice delay. It allows them to breathe here. It means that they can't siege in too hard to this because they need to clear their waves because they want to continue to hold pressure, but they might be going for something, they might let them just fall into their trap, maybe have them pressure up a little bit too far, as it looks like the members of Married with Children looking to grab ADN here. Doesn't look like they'll be able to grab it yet.
Members of Proyect XD split a little bit, now reconvening at this mid Web Weaver. Hopefully able to at least use this as a great opportunity to soak these minion waves a bit more quickly. At the very least, like you said, push out these lanes so they're not as suffocated for the rest of the game. Unfortunately, I think getting down any structures is going to be icing on the cake and definitely not a guarantee, which puts them in a tricky situation. Is that something they'll be able to get on their own? Will they be able to get that level 16 talent before the next team fight has to occur? And with the way that Married with Children is positioning, I don't think they will.
As we actually have the Apocalypse coming out, the Anubrak will be the first one to fall in this situation. Bunker is out and down. Stay a while and listen grabs a couple members here. The Horrify will actually separate a couple as well, but there is going to be the Pyroblast on to CG Apocalypse. Decker Kane will be falling in this situation. Blaze is going to be the next one. Break It Down used, and Genji will be falling, and that is going to be 4 members falling to the side of Married with Children, and at this point they have a lot of options. It looks like they're going to go for a turn-in. I wouldn't be too surprised to see them maybe try and weaken up the lanes, pressure them up as much as possible to have the Web Weavers descend right on top of the keeps essentially.
Yeah, this is really, really tricky again for Proyect XD. That top keep already taken a bunch of damage. I wouldn't be surprised if Married with Children decides just to straight up push the top lane like they did last game and push right to the core with the advantage they have. They might potentially get really close to 20 before Proyect XD is able to get to 16. So we're going to have to see if we can get a miraculous, yet again, defense on the side of Proyect XD. They are capable of it. I just don't know with this composition if they have as many tools as they did last match.
It is true. We have the Diablo actually a little far forward. It looks like they got the web wrap onto them. We are going to be having the Blaze dropping that bunker. The Stay a While and Listen is not going to be connecting. We have Sandroy going to be getting overpowered, and that will be the first kill in this push as the Genji will get the dash out, falling extremely low. The Shadow Charge into ADN there, as it looks like they're going to need to back off. Genji going to get out of there just fine, and it looks like this is going to be a keep falling here in the top lane. Meanwhile, though, mid lane has a Web Weaver just crashing into that. They can rotate down here, grab this. That will push them into the 20, and I wouldn't be too surprised to see them go right for the core at this point.
Married with Children, trying to see how far they can take this advantage. That mid Web Weaver now able to help with this core damage. The breakdown does come out. Genji with the Dragon Blade trying to get some damage out. Last Rites does end out taking out Blaze. Aviato having to go back into the Nexus to heal, and we're going to see the core on Proyect XD falling really quickly.
Horrify going to be going out, separating a couple of these members away. The mid-wave Web Weaver has fallen. The bottom lane is just ending now, but the thing is there's so much stacked up. There are the Siege Giants. They have been zoned away. It looks like this is going to be the Winions doing it. That will be game number 2 going over to Married with Children. GG, well played.